The gunshot that ignited the American Revolution and eventually pulled the entire globe into conflict began as a complete accident. To understand how, we have to look at the tension boiling over in the colonies. To offset massive debt from the French and Indian War, the British Parliament aggressively taxed the colonists, sparking furious protests. By April 1775, British troops were marching out of Boston towards Concord to seize colonial weapons. This image shows the exact physical setting they walked into at dawn on Lexington Green. Here, Major John Pitcairn's British vanguard collided with Captain John Parker and about 70 local militiamen. At this exact moment, neither side actually wanted a battle. Pitcairn's orders were to secure the weapons peacefully. Parker's men were there to make a political statement. It was a high-stakes, reluctant standoff, completely devoid of a battle plan. Seeing the overwhelming numbers of the heavily armed British regular army, Captain Parker realized his militia was hopelessly outmatched. He ordered his men to disperse and leave the green. But the situation immediately unraveled. The British troops broke formation, rushing forward to taunt the retreating colonists. The field devolved into a chaotic shouting match. Then, cutting through the yelling, a single, isolated gunshot rang out from an unknown location. Both sides scrambled to collect sworn depositions from eyewitnesses. The American leadership quickly compiled stacks of these affidavits. Across the board, the militiamen claimed the British fired first, entirely unprovoked. The British officers told a very different story. Lieutenant Edward Gould and others testified that the first shot came from the colonists, originating from behind a nearby stone wall or a tavern building. The extreme stress of a shouting match at dawn creates an intense fog of war. Because eyewitness memory is notoriously unreliable in life-or-death situations, modern historians have to put the testimony aside and evaluate the physical probabilities. The first theory is that an officer gave a deliberate order to fire. We can dismiss this quickly. The records show commanders on both sides screaming at their men to stop shooting once the volley began. This image shows the exposed lock mechanism of an 18th-century musket, bringing us to the equipment failure theory. These weapons were notoriously volatile, requiring constant maintenance. A rusty spring, a heavy buildup of soot, or a nervous recruit with poor trigger discipline could easily cause an accidental discharge while maneuvering in the dark. Then there is the off-field spectator theory, often called the best fit story. This suggests the shot didn't come from the men facing off on the green, but from someone watching from the perimeter. Suspicion falls heavily on individuals like Solomon Brown, an agitated colonist lingering off to the side who likely fired their weapon. A single spectator losing their nerve or firing a poorly timed warning shot into the air would echo across the open space. To the highly stressed British troops, that solitary crack sounded like a coordinated ambush, triggering their deadly retaliation. Almost immediately after the smoke cleared over Lexington, the search for the objective truth was abandoned to win a crucial propaganda war. The colonial leadership needed to portray themselves as innocent victims facing a tyrannical aggressor. Proving that they were fired upon without cause was the only way to justify an armed rebellion and secure the military backing of France. This stoic bronze posture of the Minuteman memorializes the embattled farmer heroically standing his ground. It is a curated image that replaces the day's chaotic details, the retreats, the shouting, and the unintended shots, with a symbol of unified defiance. Early American historians intentionally smoothed over the chaotic misfires and the contradicting testimonies. They needed to build a cohesive narrative of national destiny, leaving no room for a war started by mistake. Today, the historical consensus strips away that polish. The American Revolution was not initiated by a cinematic command to fight for independence. It began with a disorganized misfire in a crowded field. The 8-year war for independence followed a trigger pull that no commander on that field ever intended. A global conflict was set in motion because one man, standing in a crowded field at dawn, simply lost his cool.